All right.
Look, if you can do it for her, you can do it, but leave me out. Whatever you do this.
I started the recording, guys. Just want to let y'all know.
Oh.
I mean, yeah. It's true. Limited.
I'm just touching it.
I love your head wrap.
I know.
Yeah.
No, this is the
This is wow.
This is it. That's it. In the room. My music stopped playing whenever I started turning on. You know, because I have another device, and that's all. And then we will not be stopped.
That's not today. That's not today. I saw it. I kept it in my email.
You gotta cut that hard. You gotta cut that.
You know, I didn't even work like that. Boss said you be out of jail. Boss said, "Don't you said you call me."
Oh, yeah. Oh, we're ready. Come on, Alpha. Hello.
Hi.
Hi,
Hi,
Courtney.
Courtney. Hi, Courtney.
Can you hear us?
Thank you.
Can you hear us at all, Courtney?
Say it again.
Can you hear us at all?
Oh, I can't hear the conversation thing.
Okay.
Hi, Solomon.
Hi, Miss Linda. Good morning.
How are you?
Or good afternoon, where you are. I'm doing good. Good to see you.
Good to see you as well. Courtney, you look beautiful. Well, she probably can't hear. You look beautiful.
Thank you. Thank you. Y'all can see the slides okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Perfect. Wonderful. Well, we are only waiting for one more person on my committee, and then we will get started.
Courtney, have you started recording yet, or will this be recorded?
So thank
Okay.
you. Everyone on the call, this is recorded, and they're recording.
Awesome.
So thank you.
Awesome.
Good.
We'll go ahead and confirm that as well.
Let me close my door.
All right, while we wait for the last committee member, I want to make sure I honor your time. If you want to introduce yourself, those of you that are in the room, those of you that are on Zoom, that'd be great. Who would like to go first? No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah. Hi everyone, my name is Mo Sanders. I am one of Courtney's co-workers. It was
Hello, Seth Russell, also cohort
13.
13.
Hi, my name is Carrie DK. I'm here to support a
Period.
Hello, everyone.
Doctor.
Hello, everyone. I'm Dr. Radius Johnson. I'm here for all the Black women magic.
All right, hello everyone. I am Coach J, also known as Dr. Lockett. I am also on the cohort mate of soon to be Dr. Matthews.
Yeah.
Hi, everyone. Dr. Sanford. I'm in curriculum instruction. I'm not part of the defense of the school board.
You're part of it today. Yeah.
Honored to support your scholarship.
Hey y'all, Dr. Green, Department of Curriculum and Instruction. I think this sounds like all right. Anyway, and I'm happy to be here and see all of you and soon to be Dr.
Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Dr. Regina Dixon Reeves. I'm here to support Courtney. I'm excited about this defense. University of San Diego.
Yes. Come on. Come on in the room.
Friends, my name's Dr. Nancy Kruger. I work in new student orientation. I've actually been a fan of Courtney's for a very long time. I've watched her journey both publicly and privately, and I am just ready to celebrate her success.
If y'all wanted me to cry, just say that.
All right, online, I don't know.
It's over there, right? You could, yeah. Dr. Johnson, excuse me.
All right.
Anybody online?
Anybody online want to introduce yourself?
I'm Carrie Green. I am cohort 14. I have been in a dissertation group with Courtney this year and am looking to her as an example for getting to the finish line. And so I'm just here to support her and just celebrate what she's doing.
Good afternoon, everyone. This is Solomon Matthews, Courtney's big brother, and bigger brother. Been here, with the whole journey from kindergarten all the way till now. So definitely representing. My mom's also on the call. I'm not sure if she's able to unmute or join by video, but she's also on the call with us this morning. And then also joined here with a colleague of mine and best friend.
A colleague. Hi, I'm Dajane, and I'm here to support Courtney and very excited for her to defend and become Dr. Matthews.
And Dr. Palmer. She did it.
Yes.
Come on.
Okay, Dr. Dajane Palmer here.
Good morning. I am Linda Rushing, and I am here to support Courtney as well. I'm a personal friend of hers. I am her special friend Jordan's mother, and I got on the last part of the journey, and I'm just so excited to see her get to the finish line. She's an awesome young lady. I love her dearly, and thank you all for supporting her as well. Love you, Courtney.
Love you too. I'm not playing with y'all.
All right, if there's no one else who would like to introduce themselves, we'll go ahead and get started. But before we start, I would like to invite the committee to introduce themselves. And Dr. Tawalowski, you're on the call.
She is.
I'm here. I was muted. But yes, I'm very excited to be with Courtney here at the last hour. So it's been a long road, but it's been fun. Courtney's been great. So I look forward to our conversation.
You want to introduce yourself? What's your name?
Oh, did I not say? I'm Barbara Tobolowski, and I am a professor in the department.
Thank you.
Morning, no, good afternoon.
Oh yeah.
I don't know what time it is. My name is Meryl Lee Rushing. I'm the leadership. I get to serve, privilege of serving as professor and chair of this.
Hello, good afternoon, everybody. I am Dr. Frederick Ingram Jr., and I am honored to be a member of, soon to be Dr. Matthews' amazing committee. I am a professor here, joint appointment in the Center for African American Studies, a knowledge people affiliate position here in Dallas.
Good afternoon. My name is Erica Rowland, and I am the chair. All right, so Courtney's gonna give us, and also thank you all for being here today. Courtney's gonna give us a presentation. It's gonna be around 15-20 minutes, and then the committee will ask questions, and then we may have some space for you all to ask questions, and then we will move forward from there.
Well, before I start, I would like to invite everyone in this space and online to just take a deep breath with me. And here we go. So good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for coming out today. Again, my name is Courtney Matthews. I am a PhD candidate right now, and I am super excited to share my research with you. As a Black woman scholar, I have been so taken with the lived experiences of other Black women in higher ed and leadership. And so that has led me to studying And Still I Rise, an examination of Black women's joy while aspiring to the college presidency. You may shoot me with your words. You may cut me with your eyes. You may kill me with your hatefulness, but still, like air, I'll rise. This poem was beautifully written by Maya Angelou, and it was a calling card for Black women to really lean into the resiliency and the empowerment that is within them. I feel like the Black women who participated in this study exhibit just that. They referenced this poem a few times throughout the interviews, and so I thought it was very fitting for that to be included as the title as their narratives are being shared. The college presidency is a very coveted position. College presidents are expected to balance social and political bureaucracies for the benefit of the institutions. However, Black women are further barriered and taxed with heavier expectations, heavier workloads, and so they are met with such barriers and challenges, which leads me to my problem statement. Despite the scholarship available on Black women in the college presidency, there is very little known on the aspirational stage and what sustains Black women's aspirations as they move toward the presidency. Further, there is a hypersaturation, a hyper-focus on the traumatic experiences, the challenges, the discrimination that is all rooted in racism and sexism and other intersecting oppressions for Black women, which leads me to wondering or thinking, if you know all of that, why continue in persisting and aspiring to the presidency? Well, I argue that Black joy sustains Black women's aspirations while pursuing the college presidency at historically white institutions. The purpose of the study was to understand how Black joy influences Black women's aspirations as they pursue historically white institution presidencies. But then I also was very explicit in saying that this research was solely for Black women. It was for Black women inside of higher education. It's for Black women outside of higher education. It's the moment to write us into existence and really celebrate the journey and the fullness of our being. So the study was guided with 2 research questions. The first being, how do Black women define their Black joy about their aspirations of the college presidency? And then secondly, in what ways do Black women practice Black joy in the pursuits of the college presidency? Well, my positionality, I'm Black, I'm a woman, and I actively seek joy and I use it as best as I can, but I also recognize that I myself have experienced gendered racism as a graduate student, as a young professional. And so what does that mean for me being an aspirant to the college presidency and moving forward in my professional trajectory? With all of that, I do hold a few assumptions, and they are as follows. I believe that I understand the interlocking oppressions of Black women. Secondly, I do believe that Black joy is the greatest form of resistance against oppression. Thirdly, I also hold the belief that the aspiring stage is a critical point in understanding why there is a lack of representation and presence of Black women in this role. And lastly, I believe that Black women can lead any institution that they put their mind to. So with all of this knowledge, the available literature right now is telling us that it is a hyper focus on Black women leading historically Black colleges and universities, which then presents a gap of not knowing their experiences in the presidency at historically white institutions once they are in there. As I mentioned before, the scholarship is very trauma-based. It's trauma, it's the challenges, it's the barriers. It's never, how do you experience joy or how do you celebrate yourself? It's always focused on the oppression, which is critical, but what is the other side of things? And then lastly, there's limited literature on the emotional expressions, the full spectrum of emotions for Black women. For this study, there were Black feminist underpinnings. And so as a Black woman, I was able to have a rapport, a deeper relationship with the co-portraitist who participated in my study. And so it really integrates the resistance, the empowerment, the community, the validation with the interviews that I conducted. So Black feminism really edifies Black women's consciousness and allows them to self-define. It is a cultural moment. And so that's what all of the interviews really exuded when having these conversations. Black feminism also establishes an us and we versus they and them. So we are in this together, which then again built the rapport for the emotional expressions, for the content that was being shared in the interviews. Although Black feminism is quite critical in this study, again, the focus is Black joy as the conceptual framework. Black joy is becoming more of a cultural dialogue. That is not to say that we as Black people, Black women, that we have never encountered Black joy, because it has always been there. But now there is a bigger wave of literature moving into the resistance piece, moving into the radical imagination, reimagination, actually, of what it means to be a Black individual in American society, but specifically in this context, what does it mean for Black women to experience radical healing and radical dreaming in their aspirations to the presidency? So the research design was qualitative in nature. I wanted to really dive in, understand those rich lived experience, get down to the details. And so I used art-based research, which is portraiture, and that, again, much like Black feminism, allowed me to step in as the portraitist and share my experiences, or consider rather my experiences, so that I can better analyze that of the Black women who participated in my study. There were 6 co-portraitists, and again, yes, I do use co-portraitists because this story was co-authored. It was not just me. It was definitely their narratives. I was simply the vessel. But there were 6. It was very intentional in that selection. They were recruited through social media, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and through that recommendations came in. And so I was very, very grateful. And then once we kicked off all of the interviews, or the first round of interviews, excuse me, they were able to select their own pseudonym. So that autonomy there. And then all interviews were conducted virtually through Teams. So before participating in the study, all of the Black women had to identify with this criteria. And so you had to self-identify within the Afro diaspora or as Black. You also had to identify as a woman, be a current higher ed administrator, be working at a 2 or 4 year historically white institution. And then the last criteria is you have to be actively aspiring to the college presidency. So with that, you can see, and I'm sorry if you can't see Dr. Lovick, the wonderful list of co-portraitists who participated in this study. We have Tatiana, Chrysanthemum, Lisa, Candace, Faith, and Serenity, all from different professional backgrounds in their current role right now, all of them from across the country, which was the beautiful thing about this research design. They're coming from different institutions. They were large, small, medium, public, private, 2-year and 4-year systems. So it was a really rich experience. Yet they all desire different institution types for different personal reasons. But relatively, the timeline ranges from 3 to 5 years for some, as they are expecting the next role that they step into to be the college presidency. And then others are earlier on in their career where they anticipate it being 10 to 15 years. So to generate data, I made sure that I used the voice of the co-portraitist to be the blueprint for the study. There were 12 semi-structured interviews, which lasted about an hour to an hour and a half, sometimes 2 hours if the spirit was really moving, okay? And so from there, for the second interview, they were invited to participate in artifact elicitation. And they were collecting artifacts which represented joy. So there was not a limit. There was not a specific type of artifact that they needed to bring in, but collectively they presented 34 artifacts. However, 4 were used in the findings, and you will see pictures of some of them in this presentation, but I drew them based on what they shared. And so having that art-based depiction and still keeping the anonymity of it, right, was quite beautiful to share in that way. I also used memoing in a researcher journal so that I could reflect on my thoughts, but still being true to my thoughts without having to fully express them in the interview. And then also understanding how portraiture really allowed us to have a deeper relationship as well with Black feminism. So for the data analysis piece, I used Rev to transcribe the interviews that were recorded. And then I used in vivo coding software to initiate the coding process. So that was very iterative. I initially went through, highlighted common words, phrases, experiences, and I ended up with over 180 codes. And then the second round was really looking to see what codes jumped out that related to the conceptual framework, which was joy. I also coded for the research questions with how do you define joy, but then also how do you practice joy? And so that led to all of those codes. But I ensured trustworthiness through the triangulation of the memos that I took as the portraitist, the 2 interview transcripts from each co-portraitist, while also looking at the artifacts and the meanings of the artifacts that they shared. I participated in member checking by sending out my preliminary findings of the data to co-portraitists just to ensure for accuracy. But the reflexivity piece really came in because, you know, we're communal right now. We're building a rapport. There may be some phrases that I understand, but just to establish further credibility, I would ask questions for them to explain, just to make sure that it was concrete in the data. So that leads to our findings, and I have 3. The first is Black joy as spiritual guidance. The second is Black joy centers purpose, and the last being Black joy as self-preservation. So before we go deeper into the findings, I would like to present this chart of some of the codes. As you can see for spiritual guidance, there are different aspects of what that means. So maternal influence, the spirit, the church, prayer, what does that look like? The joy, the dreaming, all of that was spiritually guiding, healing in a sense. Black joy centers purpose. that directly correlated to their aspirations, preparation programs, mentorship, sponsorship, community. They felt that representation was absolutely needed, and they wanted to be that representation. And then the last, Black joy as self-preservation, it's giving yourself the permission, it's rest, it is boundaries, it is trying to figure out what joy looks like to you, whether it's theater, travel, or any version of your self-joy definition. And so Black joy as spiritual guidance, as I mentioned before, spirituality was a really big piece of that, but it wasn't limited to just religion. It was also a secular understanding of the spirit, of the inner spirit, how that comes out as a motivating force to drive forward your aspirations. For many of the co-portraitists, that spiritual foundation was set through family relationships, through their relationships with their mother. Candace, for instance, she presented this artifact that you see up here. That is her and her mother at a very young age were at a prominent institution playing ball on the playground. And she absolutely felt as though higher education was the place for her. It was fairy tale, it was a castle, but still knowing that her inner spirit could drive her ambitions to move forward. The second is Black Joy Center's purpose. That, again, comes through with the representation piece and mirrors as reflection. It's mentoring. It's this cycle. I am being mentored. I now want to mentor other Black women to expand the voices that we hear in a room. And so it related to racial and gender representation. But for some like Tatiana, her community college experiences, but then also her experiences as a student, but also experiences as an administrator, really shaped her leadership approach. And so she wanted to make sure that she gave back this element of servant leadership, serving a higher purpose, but all of that still connected to the spiritual guidance. So knowing that there is a higher power, a higher calling on their lives shaped their purpose. With Black Joy as, oh, actually, I would like to go back to this for Chrysanthemum's artifact. Her reflection, again, shaped in the family. That is a photo of her and her daughter and her son at a ballet recital for her 16-year-old daughter. But that was a pivotal moment where she realized that she is the mirror in her household for a young Black girl. And so now she translates that into her aspirations to be a mirror for other Black women who are aspiring the presidency. So Black joy as self-preservation. It is the rest, it is the restoration, it is the healing, it is the peace that comes with it. And so Serenity, for instance, she went to a Broadway musical. And so for 2.5 hours, she truly felt as though she could really shut the world out and turn off the expectations of her by her higher education job and just be able to enjoy the peace that comes with mindfulness, but mindfulness in a different sense. And even in some other instances, people were expressing how mindlessness was also a healing moment because their minds are constantly turning. And so understanding that giving yourself permission comes without guilt, with Black joy in your aspirations. The last part is calling for humanity. Candace mentioned, this is Black girl magic. We can sprinkle that on any given situation and turn water into wine and be able to really cultivate a whole new experience, but we still have this understanding that we are not superhuman, that at points we have to kick up our feet and take a breath or just take a moment to laugh, but that giving yourself permission, peace, and call for humanity were truly powerful for the self-preservation. So with all of those findings, now comes the opportunity to really compare it to the literature that is available. And so this discussion is really written as a love letter with, all the love and admiration that myself and the co-portraitist really felt. But leading off with Black Joy Spiritual Guidance, if you are spiritually guided, you have to follow that spirit. Again, many co-portraitists felt as though they had the ability to trust the higher power, that they had the opportunity to validate their inner spirit for their aspirations to the presidency. And so understanding this resilient spirit is not always appreciated at historically white institutions, but joy gives the comfort in knowing that the resilience is for a greater purpose. which then leads to Black joy centering purpose. And you have to affirm yourself in that process. Without even being asked about purpose, it was already discussed. For Black women, that is a natural thing. Again, that servant leadership really comes through. And the racial and gender formations for Black women have absolutely shaped that in the way that they want to help liberate other marginalized communities in that capacity. Black joy as a means of self-preservation, self first is not selfish, but it is absolutely necessary. And so co-portraitists rejected the idea of perfection or always having to be on or, meeting the expectations and the hopes and dreams of other people. Instead, they're at a place in their lives and in their professional journeys where their aspirations are very personal to them. And so how can they move forward? How can they still, serve a larger purpose, but also honor their humanity in that experience? And so co-portraitists collected artifacts, and then from the conversations that we had in the second interview, I was also inspired to collect an artifact. And so through our virtual meetings, I have 75 plants in my background. And so plants became a topic of one, and Candace really left an impression on me. And she said, always, whenever you are pursuing a new job, make sure that you get a plant and watch how it grows, because there are some times where you can't even see the growth. And for me, that hit deep because I'm a plant lady at the roots. And so how can I nourish my soil? How can I rest? How can I even stay hydrated? Finding the sunlight means finding the right institution, finding the fit, something that best serves me, and then shedding the leaves of ego and pride. If I cannot receive feedback, how am I to grow? How am I to continue in my aspirations? And so that leads me to our recommendations for Black women with practice and scholarship. The first is, if you are aspiring to the college presidency, administration in general, engage in preparation programs, find your mentors, find Black women presidents who can reflect as mirrors, but then also, once you are in that role, make sure, if you would like, I can't tell you what to do, but if you would like to also reflect in that way for other Black women, be able to embrace feedback, but then also be adventurous, have fun, laugh, cry, scream, breathe, sit there in silence, whatever that looks like for you. Take the time to really define what you call joy. For scholarship, make sure that you are engaging in practices and in studies and research that centers Black women's humanity. That will be critical. And for Black women scholars, it is time to explore Black women's spirit and spirituality and how that plays out in our daily lives without the thought of it being connected to a religious entity. Also focusing on Black joy with Black women's mentoring relationships. What does that look like? How does that come out and manifest? And then lastly, how can we highlight the ways that Black joy influences Black women's creative approach to leadership? So although this study was explicitly and unapologetically written for Black women, the recommendations for others is still a critical piece if you plan on getting down in the trenches with Black women. And so the first is, you need to be able to listen. Listen to what they say. Listen without the thought of wanting to be critical or wanting to have an input. When they are silent, when Black women are silent, that is still saying something. So listen. The second piece is, be open to the creative abilities and the talent of Black women when managing crises, or even just when managing conflict or interactions in general. There's a very nuanced approach that Black women have that is rooted in cultural competency and spirituality and Black joy that some won't gauge and some won't be able to have access to. But when they show you that, listen. Be open, but then also make sure that you are advocating for those voices to be present and speak up with Black women versus for Black women. So the significance of all of this research is really to extend the research related to Black women's relationships with with historically white institutions. And then it also adds a very nuanced perspective of Black women's aspirations to the college presidency. And with that, I thank you so much for attending today. And now it is open to committee questions. And then I do have water.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much. Go ahead and open it up for the committee. Dr. Tobolowsky, would you like to go first?
I can. I'm just gonna, because I'm far away, can you share the PowerPoint just so I can see you better?
Sorry, you were low on the computer?
Oh. Can you not?
I can hear you now.
Woo, I'm echoing here. Can you not share the PowerPoint so that I can see you better?
Yes. Okay. Oh gosh. Okay. She just wants me to take this off. Okay.
Then we can see each other a little better, I think.
Okay, let's stop sharing. There we go. I'll keep here, right?
You are. I see you with two angles even. That's great. Very good job. Very good job, Courtney. I have sent feedback back to you and back to Dr. Rowland, so you have gotten that. But from your presentation, there are a few other questions that came up that I'd like you to discuss. They may go over in different areas, so I may just stop for a while and then let someone else ask questions and then come back. Because your research questions were, how did they define Black joy, and then how did they practice it? I think you express in your findings how they expressed it, how they practiced it. But could you tell us how they defined it?
Yes, so it was a present moment. It was a spiritual piece. It was a moment to really take a step back and reflect. It was the opportunity to communicate with other people the thought of liberation, the reimagining, the dreaming. And so all of them actually really focused on the present moment and what that really looked like for them when they felt as though they needed to immediately recall on joy.
Thank you. Thank you. Also, I think it was Serenity who in the paper itself shows that she's not sure she wants to pursue the presidency. And how did her responses differ from the others who are committed to that journey?
So with all the co-portraitists, they, maybe with the exception of one, who was very sure, you know, come the end of the day, she knew that she was going to pursue the presidency. But with the challenges comes the thought of negotiating, whether they still want to continue in their aspirations. So she wasn't the only one, but at the end of each interview, it was definitely affirmed that I'm still persisting, but this is still on the back burner as a thought that I might or might not.
But she wasn't the only one?
She wasn't the only one. Mm-hmm. So it was probably who explicitly stated that, it was two or three.
Interesting. Did they talk about why they were considering not pursuing it?
Exhaustion, not having the time to rest, or not really being able to engage with their family. And so their family means so much to them. It's their source, it's their livelihood. And so the job was starting to impact that. And so they weren't able to redefine kind of what their aspirations looked like in the moment, but they knew that if it kept going in this very exhausting direction, that it wasn't going to be able to continue.
I think I might suggest that you add that to the rest piece, because I know you don't want to focus on the challenges and the negative, but it shows how their joy helped them continue to pursue in spite of these feelings. So I think it makes the joy even stronger that they did confront these things.
Right.
But I think I'd make that a little stronger because I don't remember it in your paper that so many questioned it.
Okay, thank you.
And then I'll stop with this and let other people talk, and then I have a few more questions. But this one, you're saying that they particularly were aspiring to historically white institutions.
Mm-hmm.
I didn't get that in the findings. I got that they were pursuing the presidency, but not a historically white institution, because they talked a lot about being the mirror and helping other Black women, but I didn't see that they wanted to be at that type of institution. And it seemed like 3 of them were at private institutions now. So did it make a difference where they came from? How did they express that it was really a historically white institution that they wanted to lead?
So some in their current institutions and really their career trajectory, most of their professional experiences have been at historically white institutions. There were about 2, I believe exactly 2, who came from an HBCU, historically Black college and university, an HBCU background, and they decided to kind of keep that also in their mind, that they would also like to give back to an HBCU institution, but they were still open to historically white institutions or predominantly white institutions. So it was explicitly said with HBCUs, but the kind of underlying conversations were historically white institutions based on their career path.
I would actually put that in the findings somewhere as well, because right now it's just kind of a given, because you use that as a criteria, but it's not in the findings about why that type of institution was attracted to them and important to them. So I think that because those are important things for why you selected them, it needs to have some place in the findings.
Yeah, that makes sense. Thank you for that.
I have other questions, but I'll let other people ask.
So first, bravo. Okay. Go ahead. Everyone. Thank you for acknowledging and emphasizing who this is for. I think often in research, specifically as Black people and Black women, we have everybody who wants to tell our stories for us and don't allow us to tell our stories. They emphasize, they assume and project, but don't allow us to give our own space and time for the experience. So thank you for that. Thank you for highlighting that Black growth and personal journey and choice. Right? I think so many people place their joy in the hands of other people. I need somebody who's going to make me happy, someone who's going to fulfill, but you got to do that work for yourself.
Yeah.
So thank you for making sure you emphasize that. Based on your research, why is this current literature limited in regard to how Black women aspire to presidency via HSIs? Excuse me, what's it? HW. Listen, HWIs. The other folks' schools.
Thank you.
And then who benefits from telling it from that perspective?
Can you start from the
I can.
Yeah.
Based on your research, why is the current literature limited on helping us to understand Black women's experiences as they aspire to be presidents of colleges? I'll just say that. And then who benefits from its limited?
Mm-hmm. So I wish I had a pen so I could just write down all the things I just thought of. But the first one being is that a lot of the Black women presidents who are currently in the role, they are at historically Black colleges and universities. And so to be able to even begin to study Black women, you will go where there's a saturation. So there's not a saturation at historically white institutions. And then the other part of it is who benefits from it, right? It's the women who are at historically white institutions, who are at HBCUs or HSIs or whatever that institution type looks like, they're able to adapt and adopt some of the mindsets that I am talking, that we, me and the co-portraitists, that we are talking about in the findings, in the discussion, how to explore joy, but then also how to go about their aspirational phase.
So let me further emphasize the benefits piece maybe that was cut, because what you mentioned in your presentation, but also in it, is that the research talks about from a deficit lens. It talks
Yeah.
about the struggle, but it doesn't talk about the joy. It doesn't talk about the good parts of it for them. So when I mentioned like the benefits, who benefits from who benefits from telling you?
Black women as a whole, because now our humanity is being written into existence. People can see beyond the Black strong woman, or, you know, the angry Black woman even. There are counter narratives all woven throughout this dissertation and through this research from the co-portraitists that benefit all Black women and how they go about life, but then also the others, right? Those who are reading this research or engaging in observing what this research can do for Black women and for the educational environment, that is a greater benefit. Okay.
Yeah, I just want to also celebrate.
Yeah.
This very, very powerful, and significant. There are so many things I love about what is in here. So thank you for that. And thank you for I'm going to say courage that and the Black joy you embody as you move through this process. It's just, and with that, may I ask where do you feel like your memos showed up in the coding process and in the writing of the portraitures as well? How would you describe where they showed up?
Yeah, so at the recommendation of Lisa, whenever we concluded, she was actually the very last interview. And so one recommendation that she even gave to me as the researcher was to write preliminary findings. Just journal it out. Whatever you think that might be, any list of coding, all of the notes that I have taken throughout all 12 interviews came through that final journaling moment. And so I feel like that automatically set that framework for me to keep my conceptual framework with Black joy, with my research questions at my forefront. And so when coding the quotes or the chunks of experiences, I was able to quickly pull based on the notes that I had taken in my memos from all of the interviews, so it constantly remained fresh. The second part of your question.
Sure, but I'm just going to build on that because I don't remember. So
you asked about code.
Yeah, so you must have answered it. That's
okay, yeah.
So I could build on that. You also talked about immediately following the interview, following your dissertation.
Yeah.
Are there some digital memos or narrative memos, things that weren't written down that are a part of the dissertation? And would you want to bring that, speaking to that, into?
Yeah, so I think the way that I have my reflexivity statement, I want to still make sure that my voice isn't, you know, even equal or louder than the co-portraitist. So I don't think, or I don't know, I would have to sit with that one a little bit more. But we didn't audio record, but there was joy, the crying, the emotions that came from it, the inspiration that I felt. It was electrifying. And so even in some, yeah. I mean, I lit her inbox up with text messages. I was like, can I call you? Because I was just so taken with the bravery, with the radical feelings of joy that the women really expressed. And so again, not even wanting to overshadow it, because if I express that, what does that then mean for the data? What does that mean for their expression? And so, I don't know, I would have to, again, sit with that, but it's not really talked about in the piece, but it was absolutely there. And there were moments with co-portraitists too, where we cried together. You know, we would laugh, we would celebrate. And I think maybe that part, that communal piece, if I'm talking about it, could still come through a little bit more. Yeah.
I would love for that to come through and more. And because it solidifies, right? First off, it solidifies the co-portraiture, that this is a co-portraiture. And because I shared with Dr. Rowland in advance I'm got a little confused going through chapter 3, your presentation. I was not confused at all. But if you would give yourself permission to bring that through, and it's building a lot, it's emphasizing a lot of the theoretical premise.
Mm-hmm.
It's also affirming your epistemology that you brought. It's really just shining a light on how this was done and how these really are co-portraitures rather than a recording of 6 interviews. Does that make sense? Because that's what I was missing in the discussion of chapter 3, and then I was missing like, well, where are your memos, and how did the coding and how did those experiences influence and there's and to engage in that unapologetic, like, right, that's not bad. You're not being a bad scholar. Right? That is this scholarship, but to invite a highlight. Metaphors.
Any other questions, comments, Dr. Tobolowski? Oh,
You're muted.
Sorry about that. One little thing, since we're talking about method, you said that you sent the findings to the participants, the co-portraitors, and for member check. Did they comment? Did they recommend anything else? Did they recommend any changes?
So there weren't any recommendations, but rather a celebratory moment of speaking into the life of a young Black woman scholar. But they did respond, so I was very happy about that.
That's the thing.
Yeah.
Usually people don't hear back.
I will say it wasn't, the full 5 chapters of the dissertation, it was very condensed in that way.
Well, it's just the findings.
Right, yeah.
Yeah. I don't remember it in chapter 3, but I remember you saying that you did it. So if it's not there, you probably want to say that they all responded and confirmed your interpretation, your understanding. Again, this is a little thing that I didn't put in my list before, but the 34 artifacts, I'd add it in the appendix of what they were.
Okay.
Because they still seem a mystery.
Okay.
And that, you show us 4 that, but like, why not the other ones? And then there were 34 in all. So I thought you maybe just had 6. And so like, why did you just do 4? But there were 34. So yeah, just do a list and kind of who they came from. And then a brief description of what it is. I think that would help me. But I can be quiet.
If I might, this is Dr. Dixon Reeves. I just had a question since you're talking about the methods right now. Tell me why you chose co-portraiture, right? Why that form of qualitative research rather than some of the others, right? Autoethnography, some of the others. Just explain that to me.
So it allowed me as the researcher to acknowledge my identities as a Black woman. And so portraiture really blends the researcher and the people who you are studying. So that was the first rationale. The second is that it was an arts-based research approach. And so I felt as though I wanted to be creative in the way that I expressed the narratives of the Black women who participated in this study, and portraiture allowed me to do that. And so Lawrence Lightfoot and Davis, in their book, they have their participants draw different things, or, the artifacts or the moments, the recollection, the pieces. And although the co-portraitors didn't draw the artifacts explicitly or exactly, I took that on, but it was still a moment to be creative in that approach of expressing their artifacts. And
I didn't miss the last part. Say it again.
I just said, and their stories.
Okay, wonderful. And so I am sure that you've got it in your discussion, but my assumption also is that you're an artist.
Oh, yeah, I need to.
And you can say that, right? And so that my assumption is why you also selected that. And so because I didn't hear it in your presentation, I want to make sure that if you didn't say it, again, that's the rationale for why you use that. I'd also love to just kind of know, pushing on what, I can't read your last name, Dr. T has said, right, is that I'd like to hear a little bit more about sort of your aspirations, right? And right, because when you talk about this piece around, these are the folks who are trying to do this, talk to me about where you're headed, right? My assumption is that shows up as well. And why in where they are headed, why was that, is that like a signal post for you? Or is it just that you were just kind of interested in what folks are doing? So I'd love to know just for a minute who you are and why this was so pertinent for you, but also why this study is important to you.
Yeah, so that comes through really in my positionality. That's in chapter 1. But I was in my master's program, first year grad student, didn't know up from down, left from right. And so I went to a predominantly white institution. I felt like a speck of pepper in a jar of salt. And so it was very much so a culture shock for me. In one of my classes during my first semester, there was a Black woman, her name, Dr. Zena Evans. She was the VP of Enrollment Management. And she came in with such joy, with such excitement. I was like, how does she have that? Like here? Like where is this even coming from, And so from there, I started to study Black women in administration, how they had their experiences, because naturally it was informing me in my student affairs administration practice to see if I even still wanted to persist or to aspire to administration. And so that was a turning point. Mental health really came through, and I feel like that really comes out in this study, because naturally mental health and joy go hand in hand. And so exploring Black women's aspirations, including my own, how I expressed joy in a place that was not designed to celebrate me, how did I take a step back and do that part? And so this research really means, I guess, twofold, right? It means that I saw the reflections that I needed to see as an aspirant. I felt empowered through these conversations. I learned more about the intricacies of navigating a college presidency, or even the roles leading up to the college presidency, right? So like the fundraising skills, the communication skills, the leadership styles, and making sure that I have the opportunity to self-define, but then also as I'm moving along in my career, the opportunity to redefine. And so this one was a restructure, a recalibration, if you will, of my joy as a Black scholar, for sure. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, again, wonderful defense.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Well, I'm reminded of the elders would say, this joy that I have, the world will give it to me, and the world can't take it away.
Can't take it away.
Can I get an amen?
Amen.
Because I need to bring some things into the space. And the reason why I wanted to say that, and I think the questions that you're getting about the methodology, I think there is opportunity to advance the methodology through memoing that there's this, I wrote, entanglement, right, of how do you do, academia has told us to bracket ourselves in research. And so now you've been ushered and given permission, I don't know if you needed it, but to show up in a place. But I wanted to say that sometimes joy is hard to capture and written in a academic way. And I think the arts piece, thinking about the methodology and thinking about portraiture. Portraiture is really about showing the goodness of stories that are often not allowed to have goodness. So as you think about moving forward, I think I want to invite you, what Dr. Lovick said, is think about ways that you can write and publish. I got you. I'll remind you.
Okay.
Think about what does it mean from a methodological standpoint to be in relationship with participants, especially around something as Black joy, and something that is so important. Because I think to capture the things that we talked about, I agree with Dr. Lovick, would be interesting, but I also understand that some things are not meant to be always published. And so I want to offer you that. Any other?
In addition to that, how do you see this work being applied more broadly to provide a calendar?
Yeah, so like what opportunities will I really take on to get this published, right? Yeah, so there's actually a journal, a special issue journal being published. And I really feel like this was divine timing, okay, for me to be able to defend this and for this special journal issue to be coming out, but it's specifically on Black joy in education. And I know I had the same excitement. And so being able to really understand like what my study means to me and what it could mean to other people reading the information, reading the research, and leaning into it a little bit more. So that's the first step. But then after that, I'm gonna try to figure it out and get with my sister scholars on how to really push this forward and making sure that we have the full spectrum presented for Black women.
Yummy.
Yeah.
I have this, I'll just give this to you.
I've never seen my dissertation printed out like that, but that's a lot of writing. Woo! I wrote all that? Okay, great.
Are there any questions, comments from the from our guests? Oh, so I want to make sure we don't leave an opportunity if you have a comment or a question.
This is open up to anybody online, but then also anybody in the room. Yeah.
So I'm gonna give y'all 5 seconds for the introverts, and then we're gonna move on with the program.
Yeah. You can go ahead and go. Or I'm sorry. Oh, yeah. Oh, my bad. Right. Yeah.
Yeah, that's
So thank you for your work. I'm like writing so many things down because you're making me think of my scholarship in very interesting ways. So thank you for that inspiration. You talk about joy as being located within personhood. Right. I'm really curious, as the expert here, do you think that the institutions these professional women are at, do they have an obligation or responsibility to maintain, support, propagate Black women's joy? Is that a space where we can start to think about joy structurally, or is that inappropriate for how you're approaching it, how it should be theorized, and what it functions for Black women?
Yeah, I think if going back to Dr. Roman's comment about, joy is something that I have that cannot be taken away, instead of having the agency as Black individuals, Black communities to hold on to Black joy, looking at it in a structural sense really shifts the agency a little bit. And so I think for this context and even for the liberation of Black people, they have to be able to liberate themselves in that sense without relying on institutions or groups, because they will always let you down. That's human nature. That's the human spectrum. And so understanding that context, but it doesn't mean that institutions still cannot forge a space for Black people, Black bodies to be able to experience that intrinsic freedom while working.
Can I? That's just here too.
Yeah.
That question was also asked during your proposal phase. That same exact question. believe it or not. And what, and
Oh,
the way
really?
that,
I don't know that. It's all a blur.
It was, and so one of the, that was kind of like one of the things that drove us to who it was for. Because we were talking about it, like, is it the responsibility of institutions to like create that space? And we were like, it's something, it was something that like cannot be touched, right? It was something very internal, something very personal.
Right.
So although they cannot commodify, right, what Black joy is, they can allow it to exist.
Without the critique or without the need to speak on it because you don't know what you speak of.
That part.
Right? So, yeah. No, I wasn't saying, I was just looking at stuff.
So I think as you think about moving this work forward, I think that is a great conversation. But I wonder if we switch it to a more communal piece. What does this look like? And not just the individual, what does that mean for a collective? It is a powerful feat. You said sister scholars. That is something that is very powerful in itself and to maintain and sustain itself around joy. So I think thinking about it from not the ways in which Black joy can transform institutions, but more so how does the presence of Black joy allow people to be in relationships in particular ways that allow, so more as a tool and not as a magic trick. But I think
go give me a shout.
I'm like, are you out? Now she cutting up. All right, on that note, we're gonna take a moment.
Any other questions from?
Yeah, I had a question too. I don't know if anyone else is gonna go.
You're good.
Okay, yeah, and it's actually in theme with what discussion has already taken place. I'm really interested in one of the first area of your findings, which was the spirituality piece and how that showed up across the spectrum of your co-portraitists, like in terms of age, in terms of religious beliefs. I also think about spirituality as the vehicle through which institutions can maybe participate in helping aid or create or foster Black joy amongst, Black women. So anything you could offer in terms of spirituality and how that maybe transcended religious practices or beliefs across your co-portraitists.
Okay, Solomon, there was just like a little bit of noise with the shuffle of my committee having to leave, but if you could just repeat that last part of your question.
Yeah, it was how did maybe the spirituality theme or finding transcend specific religious practices or beliefs?
Yeah, so with the spirituality piece, again, like how I mentioned, it's like the blend of secular understanding, but then also religious. And it really kind of played out in a few ways, and not everyone, followed a specific religious structure, but everyone had experiences in the Black church. And so learning what the Spirit meant or how to access the Spirit either through prayer, through fellowship, and that fellowship could be with just community in general. But those were some of the specific practices of like praying and listening to gospel music, or, even reading the Bible or reading like affirmations in that sense. And that ties into the secular piece of it, right? It is spiritually guiding them in their aspirations. So those are just some of the practices that were there.
Yeah, I love that. Thank you.
I have something.
Okay.
Hey, friend.
Hey.
Okay, so I'm a historian and I have like this theoretical and connection making brain. There were several questions about your methods, and I think it might be worthwhile to connect portraits to self-presentation. That might be very helpful. Historically speaking, that was the point of portraits. Even when you see like kings and stuff, they would put certain props and things in order to appear a certain way. So I think that if you want to make that connection, and someone else asked about like your aspirations and also how you could solidify like the struggles of Black women aspiring to the presidency to kind of emphasize the Black joy. I think if you want to talk about self-presentation, you have an avenue, a window to talk about code switching and glass ceilings and things like that as a form of self-presentation.
Yeah, so that comes through in my chapter 2, but it is a really good thought to have to bring it into the discussion.
Right.
And just like the findings piece of it, because it is absolutely connected to, I would say, is the self-preservation piece of it.
Mm-hmm.
How do you relinquish the expectations of, and I mentioned that in the Liberty too, respectability politics, or just like, you know, the political engagement in general, how do you navigate that? But I think connecting the portrait with the self-presentation is a really
Right. And it'll really drive home your point of using art as your method, because it is about preservation, you know.
Right. Yeah. You're a historian.
That's all I got.
Anyone else on the line?
I just want to say really, really great presentation, amazing work. It was amazing to feel my brain expand and stretch and then come back together so peacefully at the end. So really, congratulations, Courtney. We're so proud.
And I already see you coming to speak with my classes in the fall to talk because your methods and the methodology was just so good. I can't wait.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate y'all coming so much, truly.
Courtney, congratulations. You always exuded joy no matter where you are. And today it was just falling over, spilling over. And you were even dressed for the part, your sunshine dress. You're just a joy. I love you so much. Congratulations.
Thank you, Linda. Thank you.
Courtney, I just want to let you know I'm proud of you, boo. This is Harold.
Oh, Harold, thank you.
Yes, Queen, you are killing me. I'm proud of you.
Hey, Courtney, this is Doobie. I don't know if you can hear me or not, but I'm so proud of you. I have such poor quality in my little room over here for testing, but I'm super duper proud of you, and I've been trying to listen, pop in and pop out. I'm so proud of you.
Yes.
Courtney, I love you.
Oh, Mom, hi.
Hi, you have your mommy crying.
I didn't mention this earlier in the presentation, but today is my mother's father's birthday, so my grandfather. And I wasn't able to meet him. He passed before I was born, but I always felt as though he was my spiritual guide. And it just so happened that today my presentation is his birthday. So,
Happy birthday, Chief.
that was a moment to honor, one, my mother, being that she was the first mirror in my life, but then also my ancestors. And so, yeah, thank you.
I love you, baby girl.
Love you more, Mom. Oh my God. We have tears in the house. It's okay.
And thanks to all of your professional guidance that have spoken and is present, and to Miss Russian. I love all of y'all. I'm so emotional. Yeah.
You and me both.
I know. I saw you kept wiping your tears. But then the greatest big brother, Solomon.
Oh. Have the best little sister.
I know. Oh, look at Doobie, one of her role models. I love y'all. I am so emotional. It makes absolutely no sense. Courtney, I'm so proud of you, and I'm so humbled.
Thank you, Mom.
Thank you.
Have Black women to me.
Thank you for allowing me to parent you and nurture you.
I'm glad you had me.
Bye.
Bye. I love you.
Bye, Miss Faye.
Bye.
Yeah. Okay. I tried mine. Okay.
I was so taken aback by your presence. To see you, you know, from when you first were here, first started, kind of quiet, and I hear about you every now and then about what you're doing. I hear from Erica how you're doing and everything. So, but to see you command your presentation, your stage, not as a doc student, like you're here, like you've arrived.
Wow.
And so I was from the beginning, like, Lord, don't let me start this at the beginning, because it was very empowering for me to watch how empowered I feel, like you felt or feel. You commanded your audience, you commanded the stage, regardless of who was here, regardless of any questions that they might have had. Like, I felt like you were very confident. And so I am very, very, very proud and happy to see you as a Black woman in this university.
Yeah.
Have done an excellent job. So I'm very proud.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate that. Thank you. Y'all want me to cry? I'm gonna cry after this. I'm banking on it. I set my makeup with some extra some stuff, so when the tears flow, that'll be okay. I'm ready. Yeah. Thank you. I appreciate that. Man.
This is covering a radical defense. I've lived in a couple of defenses, never anything like this.
Yeah.
This is radical.
I appreciate that. We live in a radical life.
Yeah.
We out here. Is that it? Are they ready? Oh my God. Man,
You're ready?
you know?
Not yet.
He should not have done that.
I do. It is a New Orleans staple. Yes. Have the initials. I got this from my mom in 6th grade.
Wow.
And I'm 28 now. So having this up until that point, I always wear it every day. But it's also a symbol for me to pay homage to my mother in that way. Yeah. Maybe she gave me this name. This name will carry me. That's it. Wow. But I'll go ahead and play some music, and unless anybody else has questions or.
No, we're just hanging out. Oh.
Courtney, I just want to say I love you so much. I'm so proud of you. You're amazing. You are amazing.
Thank you, Jacoban. Thank you.
That's Jacoban. What's up, man?
Sorry.
Coach J, Dr. J, congratulations to you too, man.
Sorry. No, the joy is there. Yeah.
But seeing you here today, and that made me feel like, do this too.
You can.
It's amazing to see both.
Wow.
Because growing up, it's like, yeah, I have both my parents and they're great educated, whatever. But to see it here now, it's like, okay, I'm in this space. Can I do this? Is this too much? Is this like, am I supposed to be here? I got somebody like y'all, and that means so much to me. Y'all are amazing. I just want y'all to know that. Both of you, especially, you really did that. You did the damn thing, sister. You did the damn thing.
Thank you. Give me a hug. Oh my God. You. Oh Lord.
Linda Russian and Solomon Matthews, y'all will stop wiping them tears.
Oh, I didn't think y'all could see me. I was kind of putting my head down. Miss Faith, you did a wonderful job with Solomon and Courtney.
Nobody but the Lord has to emphasize spirituality. I give him all the praise, honor, and glory. And thank you for being the greatest role model and future mother-in-law. Stop crying, you and Solomon.
I was kind of thinking about my husband would have been so proud of her. He loved her so much.
I know it. Y'all making me cry. Bye.
I'm muting my phone. I'm muting.
A week after next.
Here, I'll move y'all back like this. Oh, y'all are back. I see Dr. Tobolowsky is back. Great.
We're on our way.
Courtney gonna bring all y'all some of the best fried chicken from New Orleans.
It won't make it. It won't make it. I could bring the cake, but the fried chicken will not make it to nobody's house but mine.
Y'all will get some fried chicken wings.
Which camera we should? This one?
And also, y'all got me crying.
I shared your questions as I met with them because they were really good. So.
Wow.
Maybe I'll just do both.
No, you do want to do this.
Okay.
Soon. They'll be there soon.
Congratulations, Courtney.
Wait, how do I even change my background?
All right, are y'all finished? My privilege. Say congratulations.
Yeah.
Amen.
Come on through.
All right, now we get a picture.
Goodness, thank you. Oh. Maybe I lied about my makeup setter. Anybody have a tissue?
I mean, but it's only more than one person. But no, I got it. See, this one, Dr. James, nothing against your fault. Hey, this top notch,
All right,
Go ahead. I'm gonna take one. Where y'all gonna be?
Thank you. Thank you. Oh, yes. If y'all can turn on your cameras, we're going to get y'all in the picture, too. Are y'all playing Melodies from Heaven? That's the one. Feel me in your presence. Rain. Rain. Okay. Okay. Can you see everybody up there?
Hey, Carrie. Hey, Katie.
Right, they're taking a picture of the screen with all y'all's people.
Are y'all coming? Y'all come down. Y'all gotta come in.
Camera, I'm like really down there.
For your blessing, get ready. For your miracle, get ready. My God.
That note for
Yes, it's the Spirit.
Amen.
All right, y'all, let's come down.
Literally.
We're just gonna grab someone so that everyone physically here can also join for the virtual picture.
So we're gonna be over here.
We should have this on you though.
Oh,
This right.
No, yeah, but
Whoa.
they're gonna. It's me and yeah.
Hold on.
So
This should be on you though. So you're.
It's on another angle. It's two. Yeah. Melissa, Dr. Tobolowski was waving at you. Hi, Dr. Tobolowski. How are you? Okay, y'all come on.
Good. It's so good to see you.
Y'all come on. Come on. Oh, thank you.
All the people to the front.
Okay, so we gotta. Oh yeah. Oh, okay. There we go. Yeah.
Maybe like a
Cool.
what you call it?
Is this okay?
Bronze, like a bronze picture. Oh, y'all, listen,
Oh, yeah.
this needs to be the I'm gonna give y'all the scene, right? We are the national choir.
Amen.
Everybody,
Turn in.
everybody turn in a little bit. Find your window.
Find your pocket.
All right, everybody.
I forget where they look.
Thank you.
Oh, wait, one more.
You don't have glasses on. How do you?
Oh.
Right.
I can see the picture.
Okay, formation. Okay, God's got a blessing. I was early. 3, 2, 1. Thank you.
All right, can you pull up your main screen so that we can? Courtney, you did it!
Thank you. Oh my God.
So much.
Thank you so much for coming.
So go to the main screen.
Okay. I'm going to share my screen for the committee picture, and I'm going to pull up Dr. Tobolowski, you in the corner for it.
Said take over with the title.
You see, I thought of you when I had when I look back over my life. And I understand when the
Oh, actually, can everyone turn off their camera except for Dr. Tobolowski? I think that might be the only way to work. Okay. Doobie and Miss Linda, can y'all cut your cameras off just for a second? Miss Linda, press your video button. There we go. And then, let's see. I am going to do this really quickly. The screen. Huh? I'm trying to, I don't know. Do you know how to fix this? I don't know. That's supposed to be Dr. Tobolowski.
Right, so whoever that
That's but his video is off.
but he needs to mute. Okay.
She's spotlighted. Well, we'll just take a picture like this. That's what, yeah. Let's do that. We'll do that. Is that okay, Dr. Tobolowski? Okay, great. Okay.
And then do what?
She just snip her title into the photo.
Or we can take one like this and then take one with the title.
Yeah, we can do that.
Everybody.
I'll get on the other side too.
Yeah.
Huh?
So we'll do one with this and one with the title slide.
Okay.
Are we like, oh.
Oh, we love it.
She on
Yeah.
fire. Okay.
Oh, we can't
Yeah,
block. Sorry.
sorry.
Okay.
Sorry.
Smile, Dr. T.
What? Hold on. I'm gonna put a video.
Y'all look at Coach J, because he over here beating it. Sorry, dog. My bad, dog. My bad.
I'm about to lay back on the stairs.
You got it? He got it. Okay.
And I'll do the slide.
All right, you ready, Dr. Lovett?
Oh, wait, hold on.
Have her say something, she will actually pop up in that small.
Oh, yeah. Oh, Dr. Tobolowski, can you unmute yourself and start speaking? And I think you're gonna pop.
I can.
Okay. Let's see.
Hello. This is very exciting. You all just went quiet. You're muted, Courtney.
I think they, yeah, might be frozen altogether. Or are we frozen?
Is that better? Okay, can you hear me? Awesome.
Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank y'all so much again for joining today. I love each and every one of you. Y'all have been super impactful on this entire experience. Like, I'm really emotional, as my mom would say. I'm feeling emotional.
Courtney, we are just, I can't even believe this moment is already over. It went better than I ever could have ever dreamed for you. I hope you are so proud right now.
Thank you. I am. I really am. Gosh, it's. Woo!
Thank you so much. Sending you a hug. Oh my gosh. Yes.
What to do now that she's a doctor.
I ain't gonna do that. That's not how.
Oh my gosh.
If y'all know her, you know exactly that's what's gonna happen.
Well,
I
y'all
don't believe
enjoy,
that.
celebrate big. Celebrate.
But thank you so much, Maria. And Ariana, if you're still on there, thank you for coming in. My students rock. Y'all are amazing. Well, I think that is it, unless y'all wanted to stay on a little bit more, but I love y'all.
Love you
Yeah.
Dr. Matthews!
Bye, Courtney.
Dr. Matthews!
Congratulations!
Oh my gosh.
It's done, y'all. Hang up on you. I know. I don't want you to hang up either. I'm trying to end this slideshow.
Remember that we
Oh
have
my
to go
God.
cry after this. Like
We
this,
will.
we gotta go cry. We gotta go let it out.
Courtney, I love you.
Absolutely. I love y'all.
Hey, Miss Faye, you still there?
Where I'm going, I'm gonna throw this phone away.
Baby, I'm grown
I'm
up.
emotional.
Mom, we have a doctor in the family.
I'm not playing with you.
Y'all.
Solomon.
Hey, Dewey.
Bye.
I love y'all.
I love you too. We will talk soon.
All call, process, be
Don't ever
excited.
tell me what a single mom can't do.
Okay.
Man.
Okay.
I missed that. What she
She
said?
said, don't ever tell me what a single mom can't do.
Period.
Through Christ.
The pinnacle, the example, everything.
That's
This
it.
was my first churchy dissertation defense.
Yeah.
This is amazing.
You killed it, Courtney. I don't even know why you were stressing.
I'm ready to read the whole thing now.
Okay, well, I have to make the edits that
Yeah.
all the people have mentioned, but I will definitely let y'all know when that final product is ready.
All right.
And let me know if you need the formatting help.
Okay, I will. Thank you, Destiny.
I love you. Bye. Bye, y'all. Love you, Doobie. Love you, Mom.
Bye,
Bye, I love
Solomon.
y'all too. Bye.
Bye, y'all.
I want that picture.
Bye. Love y'all. Thank
right.
you
Love
so
you
much.
I want
too.
that picture.
So much.
Courtney, I'm so proud of you.
Thank you, Ma. I love you.
God is awesome. I can't wait to see
Can you turn on your camera? Where are you?
I'm in the dentist's office.
Oh, okay. All right. I got you.
Just relax with this other graduate.
I love you.
Your mama looking golden for graduation. See,
Yeah.
John?
Well, tell him I said thank you.
Oh, no problem, of course. All y'all graduates.
Y'all take care and happy graduation to you, Josh.
All right, Dr. Matthews.
All right. Bye.
I love you.
Love you.
Yeah, and she was defending her dissertation. Oh, yeah.